This is the Financial Beat, helping you hit all the right notes in your financial plan. So sit back as we strike up the band. The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler starts now.
Welcome to the Financial Beat. Logan Sadler is here. He, of course, is the VP, Chief Investment Officer at Brogary Financial. I'm Ron Stutz, hanging out for a while here, and we're going to talk about getting you to and through retirement, as we always do. We appreciate your being here. Logan, it's another good day to talk finances. How you doing?
Doing good. I don't know a day where it's not good to talk finances.
At least
but of course, that's just me.
At least it's good to think about it, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I guess some folks, if you go out and you talk finances all the time, doing what you do for a living, I suppose it might get a little boring sometimes to other people. So.
Oh yeah, I don't normally. That's not normally my first sitting around the campfire conversation with the friends, right? But yeah.
Well, you gotta balance it out, I guess. But hey, let me tell everybody how they can get in touch with you. I mean, they've heard you on the radio, they've seen your YouTube videos, they've heard the podcast. But the number to call if you'd like to have a conversation with Logan Sadler is 888-823-PLAN. 888-823-PLAN. A lot of people may get sick of hearing me say that all the time, but it's so important because it is your way to have a no cost and no obligation conversation with Logan Sadler about your financial future. A single strand of spaghetti is called a spaghetto. I'm not making that up. I read that this week.
Hey, you know what? That is, I mean, I guess it makes sense. I've never, ever heard that, nor have I ever researched that, but now I know it.
I just, some of the things that pop into my head are just crazy, but a spaghetto.
Spaghetto.
It makes perfect sense, but my mind just never went that way. But I read it somewhere this week, and I said, I got to share that with Logan because he'll love it.
Yeah, I'm going to put that in my back of my brain there and use that for another fun campfire conversation.
Exactly. Hey, let's talk about Oscar Wilde. He's been said to be the English language's most quotable person of all time. Let's see what we can learn about retirement planning from some quotes by the Irish poet and playwright. One thing Oscar Wilde said is, I have the simplest tastes. I am always satisfied with the best. I suppose that makes sense, but what can you make out of that when it comes to financial planning?
Yeah, that's pretty funny. I think there's probably a lot of people out there that would say that they're, I'm not a big spender, right? We've talked about that before. Or maybe they say, I'm actually pretty careful with money, right? You might hear those as well. But, typically when you examine their actual spending habits or maybe you look a little deeper into the conversation and the overall picture, you might see the projections of probably a different story, right? And I think it's because a lot of us are pretty good negotiators with ourselves, right? And we're able to convince ourselves that a want is maybe actually a need.
Yep.
And I think, I don't know about you, Ron, but I think we're all probably guilty of that a little bit to some extent, maybe some of us more than others.
Yep.
And, I think some people will say, I drive for work all the time, so I need to get something that's reliable, right? And then they buy the new Mercedes. And it's like, well, a Volkswagen, a Toyota, a Chevy, or any of those other things would have probably been a pretty good car to get you there. You probably didn't need to spend the $40,000-$50,000 more than that to get the Mercedes, right? But, just depending on people. And then also, vacations and things like that. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We got to do it, right? And they jump on it. And so a lot of people might not realize that their taste may be, not as simple as they probably think, right? And I think one of the big things is there's all these things in life that are thrown at us, and we're somehow supposed to sort through them. And some of it we get education on, and some of it we don't, right? And I think that's where I'm really looking at what is a want, what's a need, and what is a lifetime opportunity and what's not is sometimes very, very hard for people, especially when you really dive deep into the picture.
Yeah, that's for sure. Hey, another Oscar Wilde quote here is, education is an admirable thing, but it is well to remember from time to time that nothing that is worth knowing can be taught. I don't know if I believe that, but that's what he said.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, that's a little bit of a tricky one, but but I think about maybe learning about investing in the financial world, and there's different academic perspectives you can certainly learn, and they, I think, can have a lot of value. But there may be some things, about dealing with money that really is hard to be taught. Not impossible, but I would say harder than others. And I think there's, maybe less of a formal way to learn those. And, maybe some of the things I was thinking of, Ron, that came to my head when I was talking about that was probably learning to have the patience, right? When you learn about money and investing and all that, yeah, you can learn how to read a book and when's a good time to potentially buy a stock based off the values, based off the numbers, based off of the historical evaluation of the firms and things like that. Yeah, you could learn a lot of that stuff, and a lot of people might be good at that. Others have some information as far as maybe good at saving money, right? Those things can sometimes go together. But I think understanding the patience that is involved in a financial plan in a overall investing world sometimes can be hard. I think the other thing that's hard to teach is to have the interest in that, right? Because like we talked about earlier, most of my friends or family members, when we're sitting around the campfire, they're not saying, "Hey, Logan, did you watch NVIDIA stock have a good week this year?" A lot of people aren't interested in that type of stuff. They're more interested in hobbies and stuff like that, like golf or trucks or cars or whatever it is, right? Mm-hmm. So I think those two things are very, very hard to teach. Sometimes it's stuff you either got to be born with or you got to learn to have a acquired taste for it.
Yeah, for sure. We're talking about famous Oscar Wilde quotes here on the Financial Beat. And by the way, if you want to talk about anything related to your money and related to getting to and through retirement, I would suggest you write down this number if you haven't already memorized it, 888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-PLAN, the number for Regary Financial, 2 locations, Hemet and Redlands. You can have a conversation with Logan Sadler. It's not going to cost you a thing. Another Oscar Wilde quote here: "To expect the unexpected shows a thoroughly modern intellect." And boy, he got that one right, didn't he?
Yeah, definitely, right? I mean, when it comes to, the stock market or things like that, the best course of action is simply, expect the unexpected, right? Instead of trying to really kind of like try to understand exactly what's going on with the markets, what the market is going to do next. Focus on what is going to prepare you for the long term, or if those bad outcomes were to happen, what course of action would you take, right? Because it's something where the unexpected typically does happen, right? It's one of those things where I've seen so many plans or things on TV or articles and stuff, and I'm sure you've probably seen them too, where they're like, oh, the market's going to crash tomorrow. The market's going to go up. This is why housing's going to go up. Rates are going down. Housing's for sure going to go up, right? And it's one of those things where, yeah, a lot of that stuff sounds great. A lot of it on paper makes a lot of sense. However, there's all these different types of events that come up that can make all of that really good fundamental data and simple logic sound great until the unexpected happens.
Mm-hmm. Experience is simply the name we give our mistakes. If you really stop to think about that one, it makes a lot of sense too.
Yeah, that's pretty funny, right? I mean, there's really only one way to get whether they say when you get into an industry like you're very green, right? You're new. There's really only one way to learn things, and that's from either continuous education and things like that, or trial and failure, right? And I think all of us go through that in life, whether that's in your relationships, you're raising kids, your job, or whatever it may be, right? No one is perfect. And like you said, experiences comes from those mistakes. And I think, I think it was Kobe or Michael Jordan, or one of those famous athletes, had you learn more from a loss than you do from a win, right?
True.
And I definitely think that is true in life. I think there's a lot you can learn from both. You can learn a lot from winning, but you can learn a lot from the things that maybe you didn't accomplish that you wanted to, or the things that sometimes hurt the most, or the things that affect you the most positively moving forward. And I think that's one way to definitely look at it, to make sure that you're keeping that perspective, and especially, continuously being able to move forward throughout life, no matter what obstacles are thrown at you.
It really gets interesting on this show. We make a lot of musical references, and we make a lot of sports references because we're both music fans and sports fans. But I know there's some people out there listening who are the same way, who would love to have a conversation with you, to have you take a deep dive into their financial situation. How do they do that, Logan?
Yeah, so those of you out there that have been listening to the show and you're getting closer to retirement, or maybe just about to start retirement, and you're saying, I've got some money put away, I got assets accumulated, but, I'm looking at this next phase of life, maybe it's retirement, and I'm saying, hey, there's a lot of different things going on out there that I want to be prepared for and make sure that I have the right team to help walk me through this next phase. That's where you can go ahead and give us a call, and basically you'll call the number Ron gives you, where you're actually going to come in to one of our offices or jump on a Zoom call, And basically what we'll do from there is we're going to go over what we call our discovery meeting. And at that meeting, we're going to take a deep dive into your situation, find out a little bit more about you and your family and what it is you're trying to do with your retirement plan. What are your goals? What are your concerns? And then help craft you a well-built retirement plan that's built not only just to be built and established, but also built to get you to and through retirement.
Hey, the number to call is 888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-7526. Call that number today, and you can arrange to have a conversation with Logan Sadler. It's called a discovery visit, and you can talk with Logan about your situation. He can give you some quick ideas, maybe answer some basic questions you have, and then you can go on from there. But Logan needs to get to know you in order to help you, and the number to call again to make that happen is 888-823-PLAN. You can listen to this show every single week and absorb a lot of good information, but until you reach out, he can't help you personally, so why not make that phone call today? 888-823-PLAN. Call, leave your message with your name and your phone number. You'll get a call back from the good folks at Brigary, and then you'll be on your way. I'm Ron Stutz along with Logan Sadler, and we'll have more coming up in just a moment. You're listening to the Financial Beat.
What is your name?
I'm Arthur, King of the Britons.
What is your quest?
To get retirement ready.
What is the PE ratio on your portfolio's top grossing products?
I don't know that.
Don't get blown to bits by complex jargon. Let Logan help you over the bridge to a meaningful retirement.
You're listening to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, and here's the crime of the week. We usually count all the federal crimes in the books. We try to count them all because there are so darn many. It's amazing, but because we're always looking out for you, the listener, we try and make you aware of one federal crime every week to reduce the chances of you ending up in some kind of a sticky situation. Now, we want you to know that it's a federal crime to transport a walrus.
Well, again, that's pretty interesting. I don't know if I could even fit a walrus in my truck, but now I know. Hopefully, a lot of the listeners are aware of this federal crime, and like you say all the time, Ron, is it interesting that this law was made because somebody probably did it or tried it?
I'm thinking, yeah, that must have been a crazy situation. They wanted to make sure they didn't have to deal with it again. But walruses are always funny to me. I don't know. Just looking at a walrus makes me laugh.
Yeah, it's like a crossover of animals, right? It's pretty interesting.
Exactly. But anyway, don't transport walruses. That's
now you know.
The advice for today. Crime of the week. Here on the Financial Beat, we'll have more in a moment.
1, 2, 3, 4!
When musicians are performing, they typically need someone to count them into each song. Without that count in, the musicians might be out of sync and the song could fall apart. It's similar to your financial plan. All of your investments must be in sync, working towards your financial goals. Keep listening to the Financial Beat and learn how to make sure that your investments are playing together perfectly.
Back now with more of the Financial Beat. Ladies and gentlemen, Logan Sadler is here. Logan, of course, is part of the great firm Brigary Financial. And if you'd like to have a conversation with Logan in either Hammond or Redlands at the offices there, or it may start on the phone or via Zoom, whatever the case may be, you can have a discovery meeting that won't cost you a thing and won't obligate you to do anything at all beyond that first talk. Logan is the Vice President and Chief Investment Officer at Brigary Financial. And if you'd like to get in touch, call 888-823-PLAN, 888-823-PLAN. Remember that Logan works with 3 different generations of folks. Some of those client families have been with the firm for more than 25 years. Logan would be happy to sit down and talk to you. And it's free, 888-823-PLAN. Got a quote of the week. We were talking about Oscar Wilde quotes a moment ago, but got another quote here for you from somebody different, Joyce Mattingly. I don't even know who Joyce Mattingly is, but something I read earlier this week. There are 3 books my daughter felt were the most important influences in her life: the Bible, her mother's cookbook, and her father's checkbook. It's pretty
the necessities there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That is pretty clever because definitely, for those of you out there that believe that way, right, the Bible could definitely be very valuable for many, many of you out there.
Yep.
The cookbook, like you said, hey, it's nice to know mom's recipes or grandma's recipes or whoever, right? It's always nice to have.
Yep.
And it doesn't hurt to have dad's checkbook, right? So that is pretty funny. I'm going to use that one.
Yeah, that's good. Let's talk about movie villains and financial planning. I know you watch a movie from time to time, Logan, and I do too. And it seems like every good movie you see has a good villain in it. So
they're almost better. They're almost more important than the superhero themselves, right?
You got to have good guys and bad guys for sure.
Yep.
Villains in the movies are usually pretty easy to identify thanks to their all black outfits, masks, or the evil flying monkeys that work for them. But villains in the financial world aren't always so easy to identify. So today, let's talk about where you might see some famous film villains pop up in your financial life. Now, Darth Vader is a famous villain in Star Wars. Luke, I'm their father. Now, in the movie, he mastered the use of the word force, but used it for evil instead of good, which is always bad.
Yeah.
He was defeated by Luke Skywalker, who used the force for good. So, where do we see Darth Vader in the financial realm? In other words, forces that can be good or bad depending on how you're using them.
Yeah, that's a great point. And like you said, I mean, Darth Vader is pretty iconic. I think people that even hate Star Wars know who that is, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But I would say the Darth Vader of the financial planning realm, right? Let's look at some things that might be good and have some bad to them as well, depending on who you are, right? Rising interest rates, right? So many people go, oh my gosh, that's just awful. However, some people that have money in the bank and are looking for good savings rates, that might be a good thing, right? Money markets, treasuries, CDs, all those things are priced off interest rates. So if those are going up, you're probably making a little more in your savings. I know a lot of clients that we work with, they've loved having a little bit better of some savings rates over the last, year and a half, 2 years. Mm-hmm. But it's probably a bad thing if you're one of those investors that had, bond funds, or you're needing to buy a house, or you're borrowing money. It's not normally a good time during interest rates when they're high, right? So there's a good and bad there. You look at, stock market volatility, right? A volatile stock market, it's really bad for those of you that are probably in retirement or kind of have your nest egg and are trying to figure out, okay, I need to start taking some income. How's this going to work? Market's all over the place. But for those of you that are 20, 30, maybe 40 years old and are putting money in every month, is probably not necessarily a bad thing, right? Because over time, you'll probably have bought in cheaper. It might be a really good time for those of you that are steadily investing and dollar cost averaging into an investment. Might be a very good thing, right? So there's all these different advantages that might come up over time. And I think it's very important to kind of see the good and bad in each of those situations that presents itself.
Darth Vader may be one of the most famous villains of all, for sure. And you can...
Oh, it has to be.
You learned a lot from, the lessons that Darth Vader taught us, so to speak. Yeah. Going back a little beyond that, long before Star Wars, there was the Wizard of Oz. And the villain in there, I suppose, would be the Wicked Witch of the West. Now, in the movie, she was obsessed with getting her hands on those ruby slippers. And she was willing to go to any lengths, including killing Dorothy, to get them. And we all know what happened to her. Where do we see the Wicked Witch out there in the financial world?
Yeah, that's another good point there. So I'd say typically you see people that might get maybe too fixated on one particular issue, right? I mean, maybe something like, I want to maximize my return. I'm a little behind right now. I need to make 10, 12, 15%, and then I could be okay, right? So I need to get the best return possible. And then a stock market crash happens, right? Or then their returns don't do what they need to do. And all of a sudden we're in deep trouble quick, right?
Yeah.
So being too fixated on maybe one thing like that, also looking at people that, I've seen people that are so concerned with taxes, which again, it's one of our 5 pillars of our retirement plans that we try to focus on is tax planning. However, I've seen some people so fixated where they don't even want to make any money because like, well, I'm going to get taxed on it. So yeah, but you still make money, right? If you make $100,000 and you pay 30% tax on that, you're still only paying on the money you made, right? So you're still making some money. So being fixated on tax, I think, is important to look at how tax planning could help and where are some tax efficient vehicles we could use to help employ in the overall strategy. However, don't get too fixated on one thing. I've seen the same thing on fees. Some clients don't want to pay anybody anything, and all of a sudden they're like, I don't know why someone's not doing this for me or why this isn't happening. It's like, well, because you probably went with the cheapest option, right? You want to find something where you're going to pay them, but you're probably going to get more than that in return in value. So I think, no one thing should maybe supersede the other, especially when you're looking at meeting your overall financial planning needs, right? And for a lot of you that are listening to the show that may be either just starting your retirement planning, maybe you're 20, 30, or 40 years old, and for those of you that are maybe towards the end of gearing up to start actually implementing the retirement plan, it's one of those things where there's many different facets, there's many different obstacles and hurdles, and there will be plenty of different concerns and goals you'll have, but it's really about crafting that financial plan to help address those goals, but also making sure that we're able to defeat those concerns and stuff like that throughout the plan and throughout the journey.
We're talking about movie villains and how that can relate to your financial life, and we'll get back to that in just a moment. I got another good one for you coming up here in just a second, Logan, but let me tell everybody your phone number, how to get in touch, 888-823-7526. Easy way to remember that number is 888-823-PLAN. That'll put you in touch with Logan Sadler at Regari Financial. I love the Rocky movies. How about you?
Oh, man. If I had to list a top 5 movie, they're in there for sure.
You remember Rocky IV? When there was this guy by the name of Ivan Drago. He was just more of a robot than he was a person. In the movie, he was essentially built in a lab using cutting-edge technology and techniques, and he was very cold and uncaring. I mean, I must break you, right? Exactly, I must break you. And you got the feeling that, he was like Rocky was fighting a brick wall or something. Yeah. But if he dies, he dies. He was not human. Let's get to that. But where do you see Drago in the financial world? Or it is Drago, isn't it? Not Drago?
I don't know. I always thought it was Drago, but I could totally be wrong. I don't know.
I can't remember. It's been a long time since I've seen that movie, but he was a villain for sure, and just looked unbeatable. But we all know how it turned out.
Yeah, and another debate for the Rocky movies is which one's the best one, right? There's a lot of good ones in there, and I think, like you said, Drago's got to be one of the better villains probably of all time in any movie series. But like you said, I mean, what will I see in that into the financial world? I think what I see a lot of people really, really focus on and that are focused is those big firms out there that are those real big giant companies with their signs everywhere. They really just kind of focus on bringing on clients, right? That's really their goal, is how many clients can we bring on this year and how much money can we make, right? Which I get it. Everything's a business. Everybody wants to make money. However, I've seen so many clients where they just don't, they finally realize that they're just a number, right? Mm-hmm. They're not, they don't have an advisor. They call an 800 number. Their advisor moves every 2 years to a different branch or whatever might be going on, right? And not all of them are the same. Of course, there's some good ones out there, but just in generally speaking, I think it's important when you look at that and the robo-advisors, things out there, certain algorithms where people, are thinking that this is the one size fits all and this is finally that golden tool I'm going to need. I think it's really surprising when people come in and meet with firms like ours where we don't bring on 20 million clients a day, right? Our whole goal is we want to bring on clients that are really looking for a team to help put them, in a good spot in their retirement, to help provide them with sound advice, good investment decisions, be independent to where, we're not tied with any type of one company or anything like that, where it's really about building a financial plan, but not building the financial plan and then see you later. It's about building the financial plan and keeping those relationships going and keeping the plan evolving because, just like the market goes up and down, your plan is going to change throughout the course of your retirement, right? Obviously, when you come in and we craft the plan throughout our discovery process, we're going to have a very, very good idea of how things might go in the future, right? How market returns might be, how long you may or may not live. We could project and have fun with a lot of those different types of facets of the plan. However, things change, right? Tax rates change, markets change, investments change. So it's super, super important to make sure that you have a firm that's going to be there to help guide you throughout those tricky timeframes. And that's exactly, what I always tell people when they say, hey, what makes your firm maybe different than some of these other firms out there? I always lead with, that is one of our biggest things is we have access to many, many different types of investments, probably too many different types of investments, but also we really focus on the financial plan. You know, what types of investments based off your concerns and your goals make the most sense? Is there any tax planning we could be doing, or should we be doing, different tax loss harvesting investments? Should Roth conversions be a conversation? You know, a lot of that different stuff to make sure that we have a cohesive plan that's built to get you to and through retirement. And that's why those of you out there that are approaching retirement or maybe just starting retirement or looking for a team, definitely recommend giving us a call and seeing some of the value that we could bring to the table in your retirement plan.
Yeah, and at Regari Financial, they are not obligated to follow any lines from the company store, whatever. The options are pretty much limitless, and Logan Sadler can tell you all about that. He can be your personal tour guide, so to speak, through the financial world. 888-823-PLAN, that's your number to call, 888-823-PLAN, your number to call to get a discovery meeting with Logan Sadler, absolutely free of cost and free of obligations. It's something they offer everybody who listens to this show. They have great partnerships at Regari with local CPAs, attorneys, real estate agents, mortgage lenders, Medicare specialists to help offer well-rounded guidance in everything financial for their clients. Why not become one? But it all starts getting to know Logan Sadler, and that's easy. All you have to do is call this number, 888-823-PLAN. Call that number now, leave your name and phone number. You'll get a call back from the good folks at Regari first part of the week, and then you'll be on your way. I'm Ron Stutz along with Logan Sadler, and we are here in just a second. We'll be right back to talk more about getting you to and through retirement. Thanks for being here.
Do you hear that? That's the sound of a plan that has some serious issues. Much better. That's the sound of a plan that was created by someone listening to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. So which sound is your financial plan making?
This is the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. And Logan, I know you played sports a lot growing up, and I certainly played baseball when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. And Satchel Paige, one of those fellows I always looked up to, and sadly enough, he did not get as much publicity as he should have, and didn't get the opportunities he should, because he was playing in the old Negro leagues. Yep. And Satchel Paige was amazing, but he had some really interesting quotes. I think one of them was like, "Don't look back, somebody might be gaining on you." But,
yeah, that's a good one.
But another one, he said, "How old would you be if you didn't know how old you was?" Well, that's a good question for all of us. How old would you be if you didn't know how old you were?
Well, what's funny, I'd say high school is some good days there for a lot of us, right? Or maybe college.
Yeah.
But I would probably say, I'd say probably 15, 16. There's a lot of exciting things going on there. Or I'd probably fast forward to like 22 or 23. Mm-hmm. Just because you're kind of, you're an adult then at that age, you could do a lot of things, and you're typically still in good shape and all that stuff. So I would say either high school or 22 or so, somewhere in that age, right? Where you got your youth on your side, but also we would all probably do a couple things a little different, right?
Yeah. And you don't have all these responsibilities and, taking care of kids and having bills and everything else. So.
Even though it's all fun, right? But it's a lot of work.
Exactly. In some ways, you wouldn't trade what's going on right now for anything in the world.
Great way to put it.
Yeah. You're listening to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. There's more coming up in just a moment.
I'm telling you, who's on first, what's on second, I don't know's on third.
You know the fellow's name?
Yes.
Well, then who's playing first?
Yes.
I mean the fellow's name on first base.
Who?
The guy on first base.
Who is on first?
Well, what are you asking me for?
If your head is spinning from confusing financial terms and data, clear up the confusion right here on the Financial Beat.
Welcome back to the Financial Beat. Ron Stutz here along with Logan Sadler, VP, Chief Investment Officer at Regari Financial. Regari has been around for a long time, and there are folks who are clients of Regari Financial who's been here for, well over a quarter of a century. Logan Sadler has worked with a lot of folks, and in fact, 3 different generations of people who count on Logan for all their financial needs, especially getting to and through retirement, which is the topic of the show every single time. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call if you'd like to have a conversation with Logan. 888-823-PLAN. We call it a discovery meeting. It's not going to cost you anything and not going to carry with it any kind of obligation at all. 888-823-PLAN. Why not reach out today and make it happen? And Logan, there are other ways that folks can get the wit and wisdom of the inimitable Logan Sadler. And one of those ways is by going to YouTube. Go to youtube.com and you can find Logan there because he has his own YouTube channel. Right, Logan?
Yeah, you can head over to the YouTube platform, type in The Financial Beat, and you'll bring you right there to our page. And we do a video there each week for you to check out. We got, over 100 videos, I think, now up there uploaded that cover many different topics. And the nice part is if you like the video, like it, leave a comment, or even in the comments, leave a quote of what you may want us to do in the future, like a question, things like that. We're happy to get to them. But we got many good videos out there on Social Security, building a retirement plan, understanding risk in your retirement, all of those different types of things that you might have questions on. You can head over there. I probably would say we probably got a video on it by now. Probably. And like I said, go ahead and click subscribe and follow along.
And again, that most basic form of getting in touch is the phone number, which is 888-823-PLAN. Logan, we always talk about these crazy crimes, federal crimes that are on the books, and sometimes you wonder how in the world these things got to be, a law in the first place. But we want to make sure that our listeners don't end up in a sticky situation with the law. So here's another one for you. Do you know it's a federal crime for an egg handler to wear perfume around the eggs?
No, I did not know that. A good thing I don't handle many eggs, but I mean, that I guess it kind of makes sense if you really dive into it. However, I can see some reasons why it might not make sense.
Yeah, it's just really, some of these things are incredibly silly, and you wonder how much time and effort and money was spent on, putting these things into law. I mean, it's just crazy. So.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah, that's hilarious.
You think about the time and money that people have put into their marriages that didn't work out for one reason or another. But let's talk about some mistakes that people make when it comes to divorces. And sadly, and not so sadly in some cases, there are a lot of folks out there who get married and it doesn't last for whatever reason it is. But let's talk about some of the financial mistakes that you've seen people make in the midst of a divorce. And I know you've dealt with this situation a lot. There are some people out there, some partners in the relationship who choose the house. They're just obsessed with holding on to the house over other financial assets. And sometimes that's a good thing, but sometimes that can work out in the opposite direction, right?
Yeah, I mean, it could definitely be one of the considerations as far as when you're looking at assets and things like that you might want to keep would be the house, right? It might be one of the bigger probably just some cases, depending on age and things, it might be one of your biggest assets. However, there has been some instances in the past with clients of ours where it might not make sense to keep the house, right? Maybe you owe a lot on it. It's got a really high payment. It's something that you might not be able to afford once the divorce is final and you're going to have to sell it anyway. Or one of those things maybe you can afford, but it's going to take up way too much of the budget, right? So you're going to be house poor, right? You got this asset that's worth $500,000, $1 million, $2 million, whatever the house is worth, but you're tied to it, right? You're not getting any income from it. You're not able to use it. It's just one of those assets that it's nice to call it your home. However, you don't want it to drag you down overall. So that's one of the things that we do talk with a lot of our clients that are going through those divorce, things, those divorce situations, is to look at all of the assets on the table and look at, okay, if we did keep the house, what other types of income do we have? What other type of assets would we be getting? And does it make the most sense to keep it? And are we going to keep it long term?
Okay, we're talking about mistakes that people make when they are going through a divorce. And as we know, I mean, that can be a really emotional time. Some people ignore the tax implications of the retirement funds that they have. And sometimes that can jump up and bite you too.
Yeah, I was just thinking of a client maybe a year ago. They were unfortunately going through this situation, and she had said, hey, my husband's going to buy me out of the equity of the house, actually, and he's going to give me, it's worth about $200,000, so he's going to give me $200,000 from the 401k. And I was like, well, yeah, you're 50, right? So technically there's some hard areas to touch that money and things like that long term. And then also that $200,000 was all tax deferred, meaning it has not been paid on taxes. So really, depending on income, that could be somewhere between 20% to 40% of your potential income and things like that might be taken away from that $200,000. So it's not really 200, right? Mm-hmm. So that's something you really got to look at. And there's many different asset classes like that could maybe be a little bit less when you actually calculate it after when you look at it on paper. So I definitely say that's one of the considerations you need to be looking at and make sure you're consulting somebody on as far as how is the assets broken down after tax.
We're talking about mistakes that people make sometimes when they're going through a divorce, and you have to watch out for these things and consider everything. And that's one thing that Logan Sadler can do. You want to talk to Logan Sadler about that? It's 888-823-PLAN. He's been through a lot of situations with clients who have gone through these scenarios and can certainly help you avoid making a big financial mistake. Can't help you avoid making a big marriage mistake, I guess, but I guess maybe
we could try, but
maybe it's too late for that. But it can help you avoid making a big mistake with your money. Here's another scenario: rolling a spouse's retirement account directly into an IRA immediately after divorce. How can that be a bad thing, Logan?
Yeah, I mean, in many instances, in most instances, I would say that's probably a good thing to do, right? Is to roll it over to an IRA. It's in your name now, and then you have control of it, and you can work with an advisor, invest it yourself, do whatever you wanted to do. But there's some reasons why you might not want to do that, right? There's actually a one-time opportunity for people that are getting divorced when they're under 59 and a half to withdraw money from their ex's 401k or 403b without owing the normal 10% penalty. Mm-hmm. So most of if you're underage, under 59 and a half, if you touch the qualified assets like an IRA and things like that, there's going to be a 10% penalty plus potentially taxes. So I think that's really where that's a huge savings there if it's money that you're going to need to touch for income or for alleviating a hard situation. There is some qualifying, rules and things like that. As long as it was under basically a quattro, which is a court ordered, those would be able to do that. And so I think it allows you to be able to receive your spouse's retirement account that you'll be able to tap in to pay for maybe some unavoidable divorce costs and things like that. And it also will be able to help save you perhaps that 10% penalty. So that's one of those things many people are not aware of that can be a huge deciding factor on it if it's worth doing the rollover or not.
I cannot even imagine how many times we have said, don't make important financial decisions when you're in some kind of an emotional state. And that would apply to, when there's the death of a spouse or a divorce, any kind of an emotional situation like that. Sometimes your judgment can be clouded, and you shouldn't allow your emotions to cloud your decision making. That is why it's so important to have someone like Logan Sadler who can take a look at all the considerations and all your options to make sure you make the right choices.
Yeah, like you said, it's so important. When you're going through a divorce or death of a spouse or anything related to something like that, that's going to be, whether it's a good situation or a bad situation, it's probably going to be high stress, high emotion, right? And so I think one of those things is that's never a great time to be making very, very long-term decisions or life-altering decisions. So, I have a client we're working with right now who's coming on board where her husband passed away, and it was one of those things where it's like, well, maybe I should sell the house and move out where the kids are. Maybe I should do that. Maybe I should. It's like, whoa, what's this? Let's take a breath. Let's get everything situated. Let's get what's in front of us that needs to get done. And then when everything calms down, we can make those long-term decisions, right? And just like going through a divorce, it's the same thing, right? Let's look at what we got to get done, what needs to get done now, and let's make the smartest decisions we can with that. And then anything that's a longer-term decision, let's make sure we're waiting till things maybe are settling down to where we're not making those things just based off emotion, but actual factors that are going to be number one, an emotional factor, but also, a good long-term factor that's made off a clear and informed decision, right? And so I think that's one of the things, too. I think having a good advisory team on your side is very important to help make sure that you're helping establish those relationships during like a divorce or during the death of a spouse, to make sure that you have a team that that you can rely on to help get you through some of those complex situations, which fortunately and unfortunately, our team does have a lot of experience in these type of scenarios, and that's one of the things that we provide as a value to our clients is being able to be there, not to sell products or build a retirement plan one time, but to help be there to provide those, the advice that's needed during those confusing and, somewhat uncertain times. And I think that's really where a lot of advisors should be able to show some of their biggest value to their clients.
Logan Sadler's number, if you want to get in touch, 888-823-PLAN, 888-823-PLAN. It's not just about your money. It's about taking everything into consideration when it comes to your life. I mean, your family situation, what your hopes and dreams are. Logan can get to know you, and of course, when he helps you put together a retirement plan, he takes all those things into consideration. And, it is a plan that is designed specifically for you. It's not a generic one-size-fits-all retirement plan. 888-823-PLAN. That's a number to reach Gary Financial. 2 convenient offices, one in Redlands, one in Hammett. And wherever you are in Southern California, call this number today, 888-823-PLAN. Logan Sadler and I will be right back in just a moment with more on today's edition of the Financial Beat.
Are you worried about whether you're ready for retirement? Logan Sadler and the team at Gary Financial can help. Just text the word advice to 21,000 to take Gary Financial's free retirement roadmap checkup. Text the word advice to 21,000 and we'll send you a link to all of our free resources. From there, you can click on the button for the retirement roadmap checkup. You'll just have to answer a few questions and then you can see how prepared you are for retirement. This is a great starting point for people just starting to think about retirement. Text the word advice to 21,000 to get your free retirement roadmap checkup today. That's the word advice to 21000.
Don't you want to see sharp and not be flat in retirement? This is the Financial Beat.
Here we go with more of today's Financial Beat. Logan Sadler, Vice President, Chief Investment Officer at Gary Financial, is here. And Logan, of course, is here to talk about getting you to and through retirement. It's so important. We got some great questions from some of our listeners coming up in just a moment. But let me tell you that you can have a discovery meeting, no cost, something that Logan offers to all the folks who listen to the show. And there's so many folks who call in after each show and during each show and arrange to make that happen. 888-823-PLAN, 888-823-7526. But the easy way to remember it is 888-823-PLAN. If you're going through life without a plan, well, then you need to change that. You need to get a plan, that's for sure, to get to and through retirement in the most efficient way possible. Hey, as we mentioned earlier in the show today, both Logan and I are big fans of music. And one of the things that I know about is CDs, and I still have CDs. I listen to CDs. How about you, Logan?
I still have CDs. I actually don't even know. This is gonna sound bad, Ron. Sorry, I don't even know if I have a CD player anymore.
A lot of people are in that case.
I had an older car that I had an older truck for a while that still had one in there, and now the newer truck I have doesn't have one. So I don't think I have one anymore.
Well, the CD player in my car, to be honest with you, is broken now.
That's hilarious.
I used to listen to CDs in there all the time, but I don't. But I still listen to CDs at home. And, I am steadfastly holding on determinedly to all those CDs, even though the music industry is trying really hard to phase them out,
They are. They're pushing hard.
They're always, coming up with some new technology. And these days, everything is digital, and you got to download this and download that. But 41 years ago, March 2nd, 1983,
wow.
The first CDs and CD players were released here in the United States. Before that, they had only been available in Japan. So they started in Japan and
wow.
finally got here. Yeah, so
that's amazing, and it's crazy when you look at how long when you really look at how long it was, but how big of an impact it was and how quickly it phased out too.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it was around for a while, but then when something new comes along, it just happens quick, just like it did to cassette tapes, right?
Yeah, exactly. And cassettes were so unreliable. I mean, you always had to have a pencil with you so you could wind them up, tighten them, when the tape would get all screwed up. So
it's crazy how things just come in and go out, and then just the next thing's there.
And these days, they're trying to push us all to buying vinyl, but vinyl is so expensive. I love vinyl. I love the sound of it and everything else. My goodness, they're so expensive, and now a lot of people are kind of turning away from that because of that situation. So
yeah, it is. It all goes in waves.
Yeah, a lot of people are changing, and some folks call me an old fogey for listening to CDs, but I don't really think so. Got a lot of company out there. Hey, let's go to the mailbag because we got some great questions that have come here from first of all, Dwayne in Idlewild. Hope you're having a good day in Idlewild, Dwayne. Dwayne says my IRA made less last year than the S&P 500. Do I need to fire my broker?
Yeah. Good question, Dwayne. So, first off, the S&P 500, for many of you that know or don't know, is basically the top, essentially the top 500 stocks in the United States was kind of the whole program, right? And so typically that's a good indicator of what the overall stock market's doing. Most people that are in the market are trying to perform like that or better than that or around that, right? In your specific case, I always tell clients this, right, where just because, so like let's say if you told your advisor, hey, you know what, I'm more of a moderate investor. I don't want to lose a whole bunch. If the market goes down, when the market goes up, I'd like to do okay. But I think, being diversified is important, right? So they probably put you in something that maybe had 50% in the market and maybe 50% in bonds or treasuries or alternatives or commodities or something else, right? So in that case, maybe you have 50% of your money in the S&P, right? So if the S&P goes up 10%, you probably made somewhere around 50% of that, right? Because you didn't have all of your money in the S&P. So I see a lot of clients where their advisor doesn't necessarily have them in apples to the S&P, right? So if you're in straight S&P style funds or you're in large cap funds that are basically tracking some sort of S&P index, then yeah, you should have done around what the S&P did or better. But if you're in investments that don't carry all of the S&P, maybe you're more globally diversified too, that's another instance where global funds did worse than the S&P. In a lot of years that can happen that way. So I think it's important to understand and educate yourself as far as what am I actually invested in. That should be more of the conversation of what could we do to change that, or maybe you're actually invested correctly, right? Depending on your risk tolerance. So definitely, give us a call. Come in. I'd like to look through your statements. I could actually give you a little bit more information based off how you're invested, but that's a little bit more of a tricky question than you might think. So definitely go in there, either asking those questions or give us a call. We could definitely go over that a little more in depth.
Hey, Dwayne, if you want to follow up with a phone call, remember it's 888-823-PLAN. Next question here is from Julia in West Covina. And Julia says, I'm still working, but I'll be turning 59 and a half later this year. Well, there's another one of those half numbers.
There's that numbers.
Yeah. She says, so I could withdraw money from my IRA if I want to, because I'm turning 59 and a half. Would it be a good idea to do this and fix up some things around the house that I've been putting off for a while?
Yeah, that's a great question, Julia. So this one's easier for me to answer. The answer is probably not, right? And what I would say is the main reason why is, what does your overall income look like in retirement? What assets do you have? Because if you start spending your retirement money, what's going to get you through retirement, right? And so I think it's important to look at your overall picture and understand, that just because you can now touch the piggy bank doesn't mean you do it, right? It's got to make sense. And more often than not, a lot of people aren't aware of the tax situation. So if you pull, 20 grand from the IRA, that's taxed probably at ordinary income if it's in traditional IRA accounts. So now we got to factor in, you might have to pull more than that to net 20, right? Or pay the taxes at the end of the year. Yeah. So I think it's super important when you're looking at, your now newly access to your retirement accounts. It could be very dangerous because it doesn't mean you just start pulling from the piggy bank. It's got to make sense. And you also want to make sure if you have a retirement plan, you would know if I pulled some money out of here, would it hurt me or would it not, right? And I think that's what's important about building that financial plan we talk so much about, especially as you're approaching retirement. You want to make sure by touching the piggy bank now isn't going to hurt you later.
Okay, Julia, again, thank you so much for the question. Call Logan's office and arrange a conversation about all of this, and you'll be glad you did. Next question here is from Holly in Menifee, and Holly says, I've had a successful career in the corporate world, but would like a change of pace, and I'm considering getting my license to become a realtor. What financial matters should I be thinking about before making a big career change like this in my mid-50s?
That's a tough one there, right? Because
Really?
there's obviously many different things that you want to achieve, and it looks like you're wanting to go a different route. One of the things with the realtor route that I know about firsthand, as far as dealing with a lot of people in real estate, it is a very up and down industry for most people. Not everybody, but for most people, it's very, very hard to get your foot in the door,
Yep.
and it's very, very hard to stay consistent. So one of the big things I would say from switching from that corporate job to that is understanding that you're probably not going to have a very similar, paycheck every month type of thing, right? And in your mid-50s, you're probably very close to maybe achieving your financial goals of retirement or getting at least kind of set up in that mindset. So you got to understand that making that shift, it might require some years of starting out at the bottom or starting over as far as that goes. So those are some big considerations I would look at before making that change. One statistic, I wish I remembered the exact amount. I'm not even going to say it because I'll probably butcher it, but it was a big percentage of overall people with their real estate license. They actually have a second job, right? So a lot of them work at restaurants or gyms, or they do something on the side where they could have some sort of income coming in consistently. If that way, when they do get a real estate transaction, they're able to go out there and close it and make some good money. But a lot of people struggle to get that consistency. Not everybody, again, but some. So I would say there's probably 4 or 5 big considerations I would look at, especially given your age in your 50s and wanting to start over.
I know when it comes to the real estate industry, it's either feast or famine in real estate, especially for those who are just starting out. I mean, really hard to get established. So many people are in it, and you can get paid a lot one month, and then the next month nothing. Just depends on how things are going. So Logan is so right about all that. So please have a longer conversation with Logan about this, and also take all these things into consideration. But thanks for the question, Holly. Next question here is from Hans in Fallbrook. And Hans says, my son is 25 and still living at home with us. He went to 3 years of college before dropping out and hasn't really settled into any kind of a steady job. He does contribute some to the grocery bill, but I know it's probably still costing us money for him to still be living here. Should I force him out to help myself financially? Wow, that's a situation where a lot of people find themselves in.
Yeah, it's a very common situation nowadays, and it's also not a very fun one to navigate, right? It can be very tricky because a lot of people bounce back and forth on, well, it's my son or my kid or my daughter, whoever it is, right? And it's a very sensitive subject. You want them to succeed. You don't want to put them in a tight spot. However, sometimes it's some of the old school train of thought is more of the tough love, right? And hey, they'll figure it out, put a little pressure, and maybe they might grow up faster or be able to adjust quicker. And there's definitely some truth to that. But I think it definitely is a tricky one to navigate. And one of the things I like to do and recommend in this scenario is maybe starting out slow with certain things, right? Like, hey, with the utility bill's $200 a month. Hey, if you could give us an extra $50 a month for the utility bill. Right. And then they're going to go, oh, okay. And then maybe that creates a little bit more stress or pressure, unforced pressure, to where maybe they're like, oh, maybe I should look for a place on my own, or maybe I should make a career change, or maybe I should go back to school, or, it starts to create a little bit more of that. And obviously having those conversations along the way, I think, can be important to help get them in that right trajectory, because it could be a very difficult thing for some parents to navigate. Because, some want to be very forgiving and understanding that it's a harder time to maybe get started on things and get a career path going. And others are like, hey, this needs to happen yesterday, right? So it definitely, I think, having those conversations and making those little adjustments along the way might be a good way to go.
Hans, just know that a lot of other people are going through this situation too, so it's not exactly rare, So,
no.
At any rate, Logan can help you work through that. And if you'd like to have a conversation with Logan, we'll give you the number in just a second here. But Logan, when somebody makes that phone call to your office to arrange a time to have a conversation with you, what happens? Take us from that point and tell us what goes on.
Yeah, when you make a phone call and you call the number Ron always talks about here on the show, what happens is you're able to leave a voicemail. And basically somebody from my office, one of my team members, will reach out to you first thing Monday morning, and they schedule a time for you to come in and sit down with me, or even jump on a Zoom. We do a lot of Zooms nowadays. And basically you go through our discovery meeting. Our discovery meeting is really no commitment or anything like that. Really what it is we spend about 45 minutes to an hour together getting to understand what your situation is, maybe answering a few of your simple questions and things like that, and really explaining some of the value that our firm can bring to the table as far as helping you craft a retirement plan and actually having a retirement planning team to help really be on your side to help create that plan that a lot of people out there that we meet with want, right? They say, hey, Logan, I have a 401k, I have a stock account, I got a Vanguard account or this account, right? But I don't know, I'm ready to start taking income. How much income should I be drawing? How much risk should I be taking? What type of taxes are going to fall into that, right? A lot of these different types of things. So they want that retirement roadmap. And that's exactly what our firm offers. And we go through exactly how we do that throughout our first meeting and our discovery meeting is really just getting to understand what it is you're trying to do and understanding a little bit more about you and your family. And then obviously explaining to you some of our firm's processes and our history as far as how we're able to help craft those plans for our clients.
Logan mentioned a moment ago Zoom calls. A lot of Zoom conversations take place with Logan Sadler, and clients who call in or folks who listen to the show and decide to call in. You can be face-to-face with Logan and still get lots of good information, and then you can move on from there into coming into one of the offices. The number to call is 888-823-PLAN to arrange that. Call that number today. Leave your name and your phone number. You will get a call back, and then you can decide what kind of conversation you want to have. But either way, it's free, and there's no obligation attached. 888-823-PLAN. Not only Logan Sadler, but an outstanding team of folks at Regary Financial are standing by, ready and willing and able to help you get to and through retirement. One more time, that number is 888-823-PLAN. Logan Sadler, Regary Financial, Hemet and Redlands, that's where the offices are. Logan would love the opportunity to get to know you and talk to you and help you get to and through retirement. Logan, it's been fun today. We've had some interesting topics, and I know you've helped a lot of people already.
Well, thanks, Ron. I definitely appreciate your time on the show here. Appreciate all you guys out there listening, and I enjoy this, and I'm going to be back here again next week. I know you will too. Hopefully those of you out there listening will stop by again, and I appreciate everybody calling in and have had some great conversations with many of you, and I'll be back here again next week with another show.
One more time, 888-823-PLAN. That is the number to call for Logan Sadler at Regary Financial. You've been listening to The Financial Beat. Have a great week.
Regary Financial and Insurance Services, Inc. and BD Financial Group, Inc. are separate and independent entities. The information provided in this presentation is presented for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute financial, investment, tax, or legal advice, nor does it constitute an offer or solicitation to buy or sell any securities.